She did. She lived across the hall from us. But so I am recording, by the way. But my wife, Jennifer, I had already gotten there. Tyson was already in our room. We had already met, but my wife was moving in with her mom and her dad. And all of a sudden, here comes this man without a shirt, riding a wooden stick horse. You know, those old toys that has the wooden stick with the horse head?
Yeah.
Up and down the hallway of our dorm. And Mona, my mother-in-law, well, obviously wasn't my mother-in-law then, but my mother-in-law looked at my wife and said, "Jennifer, honey, I thought you requested an all-girls floor." And Jennifer said, "I did, Mom." Mona she took a beat and then said, "I don't think you got it." Yeah, so that was
beautiful.
That was my wife's introduction to my roommate freshman year of college.
Tyson, do you still have the stick horse by chance?
I don't think it was mine to begin with, actually. I don't know who it was.
I can't believe you go around riding other people's horses without asking.
You know, if you leave them unattended, that's what happens.
Especially stick horses. And unattended with a stick horse is just like leaning against the wall. That's an unattended stick horse.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Mr. Tyson Schaffner. He was my freshman year roommate. That is not why he's on the podcast, but that is how I know him. We had 4 years of college together, and with the exception of maybe one or two times we've had the opportunity to meet up. The last time I saw Tyson, he was wearing a hat from Vietnam at graduation.
Yeah. I still have that hat.
Do you really?
I do.
It's a great hat. I love it.
It's perfect in the rain. That's literally what it was made for.
It's got to be that tinted one, right?
Yeah. And it's actually got like a little layer of plastic on it, and you wear it in the rain. Yeah.
He put his tassel on it and everything. It was great.
That's awesome. I think that's what Vietnamese state troopers wear. You know, with the plastic over it.
Yes. Oh no, you're giving him an idea.
Google that.
I'm gonna Google that. Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, but Tyson, first of all, has had a very interesting I guess life, if you will. I don't know very much of before college, but after college, he's been on some crazy adventures, and all of those adventures have culminated into and I don't know if I have this right. Patched Overalls is a non-for-profit, right?
Yes, Patched Overalls, officially 501c3.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Patched Overalls. I'm going to let Tyson talk about it, but Patched Overalls is his organization that I've been following through social media for a very long time and supporting and sharing as much as I can because it is a phenomenal organization, and hopefully we'll get to that. But Tyson, I want you to tell everyone where you started or where you landed after college.
Okay, so while we were in college, it was like the summer before we graduated. So what is that? Summer 2000. I had an I got an internship in Los Angeles with a production company, through Murray Productions, and they produced Real World, Road Rules, and I think currently still doing like The Challenge and other things. Because I was a big fan of the Real World, so I found out they had an internship, applied, got accepted. So I went to Los Angeles for the summer. And Martin DeBoer, you remember Martin DeBoer?
I do.
Martin was our RA on the floor. His sister her husband lived in Los Angeles. So I rented their spare bedroom for the summer. She got me a part-time job doing data entry at a Diet Herbal mail order place.
Wow.
It was an intern there for the summer. And then a year after that, we graduated. I called them back and said, "Hey, do you remember me?" They said, "Yeah, send your resume to such and such." And I got an interview in Chicago. So I drove to Chicago, had my interview, had lunch, drove back to St. Louis. About 2 weeks later, they said, "We want to hire you for the Real World to be an audio mixer." So I had 3 days to move to Chicago. And then I followed reality TV for 15 years. Only 3 years have I sort of kind of taken steps back. So I'm doing less and less audio jobs and trying to do something else. But yeah. a lot of craziness in between.
So talk a little bit about some of the places you visited, Tyson, because when you say you've been around, I think a lot of people don't really get that.
Yeah. So in college, I did a program called Semester at Sea, which actually, Nick, you brought White Squall. Do you remember that?
Yep. Yep.
To our room, and it was about a bunch of kids on a sailboat.
Oh.
Sailed around the world and took classes, and of course, there's a sad part to the whole movie. But Nick and we were like, I wonder if these things really exist. And I found one called Semester and one called Semester at Sea. I signed up for Semester at Sea, got accepted, sold my car, and I went. So that was in college. That was my last semester, and I went. So we met the ship in the Bahamas, then went Cuba, Brazil, South Africa, Kenya, India, Malaysia, Vietnam, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Japan, and ended back in Seattle. So we literally circumnavigated the globe on a ship.
Wow.
And they still exist. So they have different things now than what we did. Then with reality TV, we went where the work was. And then in between shows, I would be like, where can I go next? So I've been very fortunate. So I've been, I think, about 65 countries and all 7 continents.
Including Antarctica.
Yeah, and I went to the Arctic too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
so this is a question you don't get to ask many people. Which should you prefer, the Arctic or Antarctica?
So here's the thing I learned the hard way, because I've made a lot of stupid mistakes. So when I went to Antarctica, I went with this company, and they were like, you can get a jacket and get things embroidered on. I'm going to get a polar bear. It's going to be awesome. And then you find out polar bears don't live in the Antarctic. They don't have any land-based mammals. So I'm the only idiot in Antarctica with the polar bear, because I was so excited to see them, and they don't have any there. So
I'd like my money back, please.
yeah, I was like, oops. But I like penguins, so I get another one made with a penguin on it, so at least I'm not completely stupid. But yeah, no, that's a good question. Which one do you prefer? Oh, I don't know. I'll have to think about that one.
Okay, you get back to us. It's okay.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what you're into.
Yeah, cold or cold.
Right. I will say this. I was more comfortable in Antarctica.
Really?
Most of my accommodations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the Arctic, we were camping.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
So I don't know. I don't know if you're a big YouTuber, if you watch anyone, but there's a YouTube couple that John and I have talked about on the podcast. They're not based. I shouldn't say that. They're from here in Nashville, which is how we kind of follow them. Their names and what they go by on YouTube is Kara and Nate.
I feel like I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. They've been to 100 countries. That was their goal in 4 years, was to make 100 countries. And they finally did. Now they have a van and they're traveling all around the United States.
They're a young couple, right? Like in their
very
late 20s, early 30s.
Yes.
Something, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But one of their last trips after they hit 100 was to Antarctica. And they took a ship and they had really nice accommodation.
Not finished yet?
No. No, they started on the bridge, but the white squall came through.
Maybe we'll do a tunnel. No.
Yeah.
A tunnel. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
What would they call it? They wouldn't call it the chunnel because that name's already taken. I don't know what they call it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was a friend of mine whose mother was a teacher, but in the summers, she would lead tours around Switzerland because she was very familiar. And in our small town in Wisconsin, probably not unlike St. Genevieve, which we'll talk about. There was, it was great because people knew everyone. And one lady said to him one time, well, is your mother, what's she doing for the summer? Something fun, I hope. And he said, well, she's leading a tour in Switzerland. And she said, well, that's wonderful. She said, did she drive? And that was the beginning of his geography lesson. He had to give that. Well, let me draw you a little picture.
Yeah. It's geography. I don't even know if they teach that as much as they used to, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
They don't.
I think you're right. And that's that. You know what? That is the beauty. Okay, I got to confess, I did a little research, Tyson, but that is the beauty of patched overalls. And for our listeners, it's patchedoveralls.com. It's, you know what, when I first read about it, I thought, okay, well, it's a scholarship thing. That's kind of cool. But I dived into it a little bit more, and it's for juniors, not seniors.
Yeah.
And it's not for necessarily, but typically the way I read it, it's not for college. It's for an experience before college, and hence the junior year. Anyway, I just thought it was brilliant. So tell us a little bit about that. It is patchedoveralls.com, and you need to check it out because it's got it's got a lot of cool stuff, but Tyson will give us the
and
Reader's
of course
Digest.
we'll have that linked. We'll have a link to it on our website as well.
Of course
so.
we will.
Yeah.
Well, that costs an extra $5, doesn't it? Or one lap on the stick pony.
One lap on the stick pony.
Yeah.
That's what
any money will be donated to
Make
Patched
that
Overalls.
sort of like GIF or something.
Yeah.
That's going to be my next album.
Here you go.
One lap
Here
on
you
the
go.
stick pony.
Yeah.
Wait until we start talking about the unicycle. Go on, Tyson.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry.
So, quick, Patched Overalls is, we're based in my hometown of St. Genevieve, a small town, population 4,400-ish, and a little farming community. And the idea was to go back to where I started and try to give an opportunity for students to do similar things that I had opportunities to do, and to experience something outside of your own geographic bubble. The reason we chose juniors is, that time is at the time I was like, well, what are you going to do after you graduate? Are you going to go to, there's this. And as a junior, you're like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing next weekend. But give students some direction, hopefully, so that if they choose to go to college, they kind of have an idea of where they want to go, what they want to do. So they don't get there a year later and be like, I hate this. So just a chance to really dive deep into what do I want to do. And then also the big part that I really love is we pick juniors because it allows them to go have the experience, come back home, and then share that experience with the community. So they broaden their horizons, and then they get to broaden the horizons of the community. Like our very first student, she was interested in marine biology. You can't do that in Missouri. You just can't. So
It's tough.
have this
Definitely tough.
experience and come back and go, hey, first time on a boat, I threw up on my friend, but here's what I did. She actually did that. Our first student, she had never really been on a boat in the ocean before. She got seasick for 2 days and she threw up.
Oh no,
man!
And she said she was so embarrassed. But now they became friends and they still stay in touch. And that was over 5 years ago. She was our first student.
Wow. So it's and there's way more to it. And incidentally, you can get involved in river biology in St. Genevieve.
That's true.
But it is right on the Mississippi River. But that's amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like a travel element to all of them, right? It's not just I'm going to stay at home and work on something. They have to go somewhere.
Yes. There's all these like little nuggets in there that we think we may not necessarily talk about all the time, but we hope students get, or, and one of them is that we talk about a lot is you have to get out of your comfort zone. If you're doing the same things with the same people in the same place, you never really know what you're capable of doing. So you have to put yourself in a situation where you're completely uncomfortable sometimes before you're really going to know, is this what I want? And I think too, sometimes you're going to go and have the worst experience ever, but knowing what you don't want is also very valuable information.
You mean like puking on a boat?
Right. Yeah. Like I went on this boat and I realized maybe marine biology is not for me since I got no sea legs, and it's just. But that's part of it. Any experience, you'd be like, cool, I got to try it. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, check that off the list. Let's move on to the next one.
Well, before we go too far down this path, I want to know the origin of Patched Overalls. I know the origin of Patched Overalls.
I do too, but we're going to tell
you
our
to tell us the origin.
So my right hand with Patched Overalls is a good friend of mine. Her name is Carrie Staffen, and she's the head librarian at St. Genevieve School District there, the public school. She will never take any credit for this. So every time I mention her name, she's like, stop. I'm like, no, you're the catalyst, even though you won't acknowledge it. But she taught English before she became the head librarian, and she used to invite me back to St. Genevieve, to the high school, and say, just talk to the students about your travels. and the things that you learned. So I did that for a number of years, and I was just like, this is cool. Plus, who doesn't like to talk about themselves all the time? So I was like, at one point, I was like, what more can we do than just come here? Because at first it was like, here's just funny stories. And then it was like, well, here's some life lessons, and here's things I've learned. And then students were like, yeah, but how did you do it? Like, that was the big question. How did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? And it's like, well, let's create something to say, here's how we did it, and give students some opportunities. So that's sort of this snowballed thing. And, it took 2 years or so before we officially became a 501c3 and was able to do our very first round in the school. And of course, every year now we've done, we've had 5, and our 6th student is right now. And, every year we learn something new, or like, well, that didn't quite work. We got to try that again. And, so. And now, especially now with the COVID stuff, it's like, okay, we gotta have to adapt again and figure out some other way to move forward. But yeah, it was just, how do we create opportunities for people to kind of figure out what it is they want to do with their life, or figure out, maybe I don't want to go that way, I want to go that way instead.
Right. That's awesome. Now, the name Patched Overalls, where does that come from?
Okay. Since we're on video,
our listeners don't know that.
Right. Yeah, you guys can see.
Yes.
Yep, there they are.
He's holding up
overalls. So
patched overalls. Cool.
So this is so weird. So when you guys, if you travel around a lot, you'd see like young travelers with backpacks, and they put little patches on, or I kept seeing people do that. I was like, well, that's a pretty cool idea. I'm going to try that one day. And then I got injured on a job in Jamaica, and I was in a leg brace, and I was just at home in a leg brace for a while. I'm like, well, maybe now's the chance for me to do this patch thing. And I started counting all the places I've been. I'm like, I'm going to need a bigger backpack. So I just thought it'd be really funny to do something ridiculous like overalls. So that's what I did. I bought a bunch of the patches online because I had already gone to some places, and I'm like, I can't go back to Cuba just to buy a patch. So I and it was sort of became this, it was sort of like a joke at first, but then it became, hey, this is kind of cool. And then I would just wear it randomly because that's what I would do when I was younger, just wear weird things. And you get a lot of reactions when you wear something like that. And then when I started going talking to the high school, I was aware of that, because immediately I get a room full of students to go, who is this guy? What is this? So they started knowing me, you're the overalls guy. So it just clicked one day. I'm like, oh, we'll be called the Patched Overall Scholarship, or, our sort of long official working name is the Patched Overalls Experience, but for short, Patched Overalls. And that's how the kids knew us. And
that's awesome.
It worked.
Now we will post some pictures of Tyson and of Tyson's patched overalls, but you can also head to his website and see pictures. And I think it's a drawing, right? But there are still pictures of you and pictures of the patched overalls on the website. So and you'll be able to see some of the students who've been able to take advantage of the scholarship too.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. And I have to say, I know this sounds corny, but I am so proud of you and for all the things that you've accomplished, especially with patched overalls. And I was, again, I know I said this before, but I loved and share as much as I possibly can that effort, even though I know it's very much focused on St. Jen. Hopefully, I would love for it to get big enough where you could start expanding out from St. Genevieve and to other places.
I was thinking the same thing, that would be such a cool thing if you were able to go, make it regionally, then nationally, and because it really is that cool. And okay, hold up the overalls one more time, will you? So we can do this. This is going to look great. Well, keep your face in there. That's good. Okay. That's all people ever see when I post something is me holding a camera, taking a picture of some crap.
Well, it's either that or awesome. I take the picture and John's like,
well, you should be able to take a picture and smile at the same time. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't work. No.
So here's the part that, and I'm going to I'll let us, because I want to talk more about your personal stuff too. And I know Nick has lots of other stories that he wants to tell. Well, I know he's got to be loaded for bear with that stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm always
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's
So there's going to be good stuff. But just to encapsulate Patched Overalls, what I liked especially when I was reading about it is these kids come back and it's not just, well, then they accidentally do something to talk to other schoolmates and the community at large. They're required to do that. That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
And they, they have to give all this. It's like a download essentially of information once they get back. And here, I want to share this with you. And I know you're familiar with it. This is a junior that came back. This is Aaron Stacy. And I know you remember Aaron because he was, he's class of 2020.
Yeah.
Talk about a weird time to graduate. He went to the National Student Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. Here's a quote that he said in his wrap up as to, what he got out of it specifically and so on. He said this: "My message to other people would be that even if someone doesn't share the same ideas as you, don't let it get in the way of getting to know that person." He said, "That's something I had to learn while I was there." Could we use that in today's political environment? I mean, it's brilliant. And what a cool takeaway.
Yeah. I mean, it was really interesting. I mean, again, that's one of those things that we kind of hope happens, but it's just to be like, and Aaron didn't say it to me because, I mean, I do try to stay in touch as best I can, especially when they're done. Like, how do you want to share this? Who are you going to talk to? But also, how was it? Like, what was your experience like? So we do these little testimonials, and that's what we post on the website. It's just, here's what they say.
And not just Aaron, his dad. Had to do a recap as well. I thought that was awesome.
We always ask the parents to do testimonials too, because these are high school students. So it's like if another high school student, it says, "Hey, mom, dad, I want to do this," and the parents are like, "Well, here's what parents thought too."
That's
awesome. I would hear stories from almost all the parents, but you mentioned Aaron specifically, but like talking to his dad, and I talked to some of the other teachers who were with him, who knew him before and after. His confidence just went way up, and he was also like, he made a comment to one of the teachers that was like, "I thought my views about whatever were the popular views, but actually they're not." To be in a room where I don't hold the popular view, kind of a moment for him was like, "Oh, okay, this is how this works." Okay. And I mean, that's what we hope. Like, the part of it is you're out of your comfort zone. You get to have this experience about the thing I've heard recently that I love, that your world is not the world. And
I love that.
I've been taking that lately. I'm like, yeah, like 95% of the people in your world might do this or say this or think this, but the world may not even have a clue about what you're talking about. So
for sure,
to give these students an opportunity just for a glimpse of that, to be like, oh, the world's bigger than what I've thought.
Especially
smaller at the same time.
The junior in high school who already has that comprehension. We have people running around who are, Nick's age, which is who really don't get that. Nick does, of course, but others don't. So my freshman year college roommate was a guy we lovingly called ROTC-Bob. He was an ROTC guy. Okay. I had no idea who he was when I was assigned to him. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty easy to get along with. And we were okay at first. He was from California, and his parents were paying out-of-state tuition, but didn't send him any money. So he's kind of trying to get by without much cash. He got involved in every health study at the University of Wisconsin he could. And so one day I came home from classes, opened my little refrigerator, and found a bag of shit in there because he's keeping his bodily fluids for some study he was in. And finally, I told him, "Dude, this is not acceptable." To make a long story short, he got moved to another dorm. I could not have been happier.
One that's more hermetically sealed, hopefully.
Oh my gosh! Just a Ziploc dorm, I think they called it.
Jeez.
But it was nasty. True story. And of course, my son has given me crap about that forever.
Literally.
Once I told him, well, yeah, but his crap was much better than Bob's. So knowing that was my experience, it sounds like you guys are still buds, and that is cool.
Well, so I do want
a little bit about that.
I do want to compare though before I let Tyson tell his side of the story, because he's probably more entertaining. But I do have to say,
come on.
No, I'm saying his is.
Stick horse.
I'm not. I'm the least entertaining out of this this trio.
Not true.
No, but I do have to. I want to make one comparison to that. I know yours was kind of it's funny, but kind of negative in a way because of how he was trying to earn his living. But I have to say, Tyson is one of the hardest workers I have ever met in my life. From the day we moved in, he was always doing homework, always working. I remember your job at the zoo. I remember the Pontiac we drove around in. The first week we met, we had photography classes together, and we decided to go driving in his car to go take pictures of downtown St. Louis. I don't even think we made it halfway through the bad part of town and his car overheated. Great old Missouri summer. But I swear, Tyson was always doing something, always hustling in a good way, never anything bad, never anything illegal, but always hustling to try to not only gain experience, but also to get money to be able to do the things that he was able to do, like semester at sea and some of the other things that he was able to do while we were still in St. Louis. It's just incredible. His work ethic is beyond belief, again, which is why I'm so proud of him for being able to accomplish what he's accomplished. And he teaches at our college now too, right? Or you were? Or you still?
I was until I just finished
until COVID.
I got my apprenticeship now. The scheduling doesn't work for me to go back and teach again. They left the offer open, and I'd like to go back and teach a class again if I can, but my current schedule is just It's
the schedule is full, as it always is.
Well, there was trying to leave audio or to do less audio and find something more local, because with audio I had to travel all the time, so it was tough. So I mean, my last major audio job was last summer, and I come home and then I had 3 jobs. I was teaching, I was doing home inspections, and then I got hired to do at Valvoline to do oil changes. So I had 3 jobs for a while until I got in this apprenticeship. And then every now and then I was also doing stagehand work. So, got bills to pay. We're adults.
Yeah. I know, isn't it ridiculous?
Wives and kids and stuff.
So I've always been told by my wife and by friends and family that I'm too much of a workaholic. All I have to do is bring up Tyson's name for those who know him, and they'll say, "Okay, you're fine. Yeah, you're normal."
To be fair to I don't know, me or you, I'm not sure who's fair right now. Anyway, sometimes I would say I have work, but really I just took a trip somewhere and just I'm off the grid working. No, I'm on a trip and I can't be bothered.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong whatsoever.
Be like, hey, you busy tomorrow? Oh, I'm totally working. I'm real busy. Yeah, no. I was at the airport going somewhere. Or we don't do that at all. John and I have never made up that story. Like, you guys are always working. Yeah,
we're always working.
Ixnay on the Ori stay.
What's that sound in the background? Sounds like a Harley. What? No. That's just my neighbor mowing his lawn. I'm not riding my Harley right now.
The neighbor has a big twin engine on his lawnmower. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Usually when we do these, Tyson, there is a lot of dead silence. Nick and I, especially with the video now, we just stare at each other. And, the listeners seem to like it. I know they seem to.
The listeners don't. Audio professional right here. He realizes that there's some editing that goes into it to tighten things up. So,
especially when it's us.
Yeah, especially when it's us.
Yeah. We end up usually going for like 4 hours, and then he gets 28 minutes out of it. So,
yeah.
So,
I'm sure. Yeah.
A little bit of editing.
That's what takes most of the time anyway, too.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
It's certainly not preparation.
Yeah, absolutely not. Especially as much as John screws up.
He cuts out all the swear words, which is great. My mother listens.
That's the beauty of podcasting. I don't have to cut that out.
No,
Right. Yeah. You can say whatever you want.
thankfully.
I once had to do for a job, I had to do background checks because it happened a lot on jobs, especially if we had minors. And I'm like, there was 1 year, I think I had 3 or 4 background checks. But some of them give you the option, like, do you want to see what we found? And I was like, yes.
Wouldn't you say, I don't know, do I?
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna, yes, give it to me. And you mentioned podcasts. So Ken Calcaterra, another guy we went to high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was with
college
his podcast.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, he does this thing, Conversations with Calcaterra, and he just similar thing, just talks to people. I think he does a lot with the. So he still works in TV, film production, so he gets a lot around that. But he's open to talk to anybody. But we talked about some, random weird things, and one of them was Vietnam. When I was in Vietnam, they had a thing, and I called it snake wine. And the actual bottle had the cobra still in it, like it's fermented with the snake.
Shut up.
I have to go back and look at my journal, but I clearly remember these bottles of wine that had a snake in it, and they're like, oh, it's for medicinal purposes. I didn't drink any. I never talked about drinking any in the podcast, but it had come up in my background check that I was talking about drinking. What the? So
That's crazy.
I know. I was like, wow. So background checks are serious.
Wow.
Man, we better not ever have a background check on us, John.
Well, look, I mean, I've heard of tequila with worms in it.
Yeah.
But what, this was like a wine or what?
It was it almost looked like just like a regular old jug, like a glass, like a milk jug or something, but glass. And it had a snake in it. And it was like wine. And we called it wine. I don't know how you say it in Vietnamese, but and you could just buy them. And I was like, I was so confused. Plus, I mean, I didn't drink alcohol then. I still don't drink now, but I was like, I'm not drinking anything that comes out of that.
Oh my gosh. Well, especially when you say, well, it's for medicinal purposes. What, for the snake?
I think you just say that when it's over a certain proof. You're like, well, that's medicinal.
I like that. That's funny. There's a movie, and I'm trying to find it.
It always comes back to a movie.
It always comes back. It has Zach Galifianakis in it.
With snake wine?
Yes. There's a scene in it. Okay, not Nick Galifianakis. I want Zach Galifianakis.
Zach.
Why can't I find Zach Galifianakis?
Part of me's like, are we all going to Google this? Like snake wine. I'm going to look it up too.
There we go. Zach Galifianakis. He was in see, this is that pause we were talking about. Here we go. Keeping Up with the Joneses.
Oh.
Have you seen that either? It's got Zach Galifianakis, Isla Fisher, John Hamm, and Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot.
I could watch Gal Gadot in just about anything.
Yeah, well, John Hamm and Gal Gadot play spies, and in the movie, I think it's this. It's got to be this movie. I'm 90% sure. But anyway, there's a scene where they are drinking snake wine, or eating snake and drinking snake wine, and they have the snake head sitting on the table, and they say, "Be careful because they can still bite, even though that's only their head." And there's this whole scene where it actually bites Zach Galifianakis. I think it was this movie. I'm pretty sure.
I found it now, according to Wikipedia. Yes, snake wine.
Oh, dude, I just found it.
Beverage produced by infusing whole snakes in rice wine or grain alcohol. First recorded to have been consumed in China during the Western Zhou dynasty, and considered an important curative and believed to reinvigorate a person.
Yeah, but not a snake.
Yeah.
I just found a picture. I am going to post that because Shazam.
Yeah,
because it's like I mean, it is. This one's a king cobra, and it's all flared out. And so when you take the lid off, I'm not sure he's not going to come out through the opening. Holy crap.
So what I'm hearing, John, is you wouldn't try this.
I might pour it into a shot glass first.
Yeah, a list of things that I would not try.
Oh my
I'm
God.
pretty open-minded. No, not anything that has to do with snakes. I'm out.
That's one of them. And speaking of shots, we went, and Tyson, just as an FYI, because I think Nick, you and I talked about this on an earlier episode. We went on the Harleys to Lake Superior, and from where I live, it's pretty much the length of the state of Wisconsin. And we all the way up. I mean, it's all COVID, this, COVID, that. And the first place we stopped, there wasn't too much of it. When we got to Lake Superior, everybody's wearing a mask. And we went out on a cruise around the Apostle Islands in Lake Superior. And the captain the whole time is saying, well, this would be open. They'd be giving tours. But because of the COVID, they're not. So we must have heard it 50 times. And at the end of the day, we said, I think that we should turn that into a drinking game. Anytime anyone says, because of the COVID, you got to do a shot. And so I would be hammered all the time if we turn that into a drinking game because of the COVID. Damn it. Everybody says it. And so I'm thinking of that with snake wine. Maybe it'd just be a little sip.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be anything beyond that because Shazam.
He keeps saying Shazam because he wants to turn into Shazam.
I'm hoping I keep saying it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. The background check. I guess, like I said, I think we're kind of screwed. But yeah, Ken has been doing some work in Nashville, or it's been maybe a couple years, but he's been coming down to Nashville quite a bit. We have yet to connect, but he keeps trying.
Yeah, he won't quit. I mean, he's good about that because he reaches out to me every now and then, and we try to meet up when we can. So yeah, good guy.
He's a very good guy. Have you been back out to LA anytime recently?
Not. It's been over a year now, probably since yeah.
So now the people you stayed with, you said you had mentioned Martin and his wife. Martin is a fascinating character in and of himself. What was his? Go ahead.
He's just world renowned, I think, nowadays.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And what was his degree in, though? Wasn't it like education? Wasn't he going to be a teacher?
It's like elementary ed or special ed up until his senior year. Then he was found photography, and he's like, "Oh, I really like this."
Yeah. So before we tell you all of that, John, so Martin he was Dutch born and raised in Europe, all over Europe, always went to an international school. So when you talk to Martin, he has an American accent. He wouldn't know that he was born and raised in Europe. He's 6'7". He's very, very tall, and he's always been very thick, like in really good shape. One of the most gentle people you'll ever meet, one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. And like we were just talking about, all the way through college, he was going for elementary ed. And then went and moved to LA with his wife, who has made a very good name for herself. He is now a world-renowned photographer, taking shots of stars and movie stars and television stars.
Celebrity, he's probably shot him.
Yep, exactly. One of the most popular Robin Williams headshots from after he passed away is one of Martin's photographs.
It was the cover of Time magazine, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was of when Robin Williams passed away. That picture that was Martin's picture.
Yep. Yeah, and his wife, she was she's the executive producer or one of the producers of the Academy Awards, right?
Yeah, she might have recently. I think she recently switched over somewhere else. But yeah.
So they are very, very, very successful, and I bring that up only because Tyson had mentioned that he was out there staying, and I truly believe that again, Tyson probably influenced all of them. That's just.
Martin came back to Webster last year.
Oh yeah.
in the little May gallery, they had a bunch of his photographs, and it was during homecoming, and Martin came back, and I was teaching, and he walked by. I was like, "Oh my God!" And I was telling my wife about Martin. And I was like, Martin is like, he's a guy that you want to not like, but you can't help but like him.
Yes.
And I say that because in college, all the girls loved Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Good looking, tall, all these things that Nick had said. And you're like, you want to be jealous, but you can't because he's just that nice of a guy. I want to hate you, but can I hang out with you too?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I feel really where I was going with that, and we have a few other friends that we went to college with that have had some phenomenal success. When I'm talking to someone like Tyson or Martin or some of these other people, I feel like I've been a fairly successful person, but I pale in comparison to the successes these people have had. And it just really, it's not a bad thing. It just makes me want to work harder.
Well, I mean, it's the beauty of that. I mean, is knowing folks who are successful, but at the same time inspiring. I mean, it's one thing to be successful, but if you're a jerk, nobody wants to be successful and be a jerk. I can only do one thing at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, but none of that.
We tell our students, though, success is what you define it to be.
Exactly. Yep. I 100% believe that too.
For some people, I remember talking to my mother, and it's like, Mom, what did you want when you were, and she said her idea of success was to be able to go to the grocery store and buy anything she wanted. That was her dream. I want to be able to go, and I'm not living check to check. I can buy whatever I want at the grocery store. And she had reached her peak. It wasn't to travel the world. It wasn't to be on Broadway. It was, I just want to be able to go buy groceries. And I think
it depends on your perspective like that. You're right. And that would probably be similar to my mom, who was raised, during the Depression, and it changes the way you look at things. And a lot of kids today don't have that insight. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And that's bringing us full circle back to patched overalls and that confidence and that belief. That's really what should drive our world. And that's really what drives, I think, a lot of the people that are involved with patched overalls, which is a phenomenal thing.
Well, you mentioned inspiration. I'm sorry, I go off the rails here too, but
hey, that's what this podcast is all about, is going off the rails.
Sure. Well, we haven't had a name it off the rails. We haven't gone off the rails.
Yeah. I mean, talking to some of these students, I would hear students be like, I just want to inspire people. I just want to inspire people. I just want to, and it's like, okay, how? And so we got in this like whole thing about what makes someone or something inspiring. And the best conclusion I could come up with is like inspiration is just a byproduct of living a passionate life. I
love that.
So someone follows their passion and you're inspired by their passion because that person will, stick through to something. That person will overcome obstacles to maintain a course or whatever it is. So for you to be an inspiration, you need to find what drives you and what your passion is. And then inspiration is just a byproduct of that. Like you can't, and so that's what I tell the students too, if it comes up again, because you can't just wake up and you're like, today I'm going to inspire people to go running. Well, how are you going to do that? You got to know how to run. You got to know how it works. You got to know what's behind it. Why do you do it? Because nobody's just going to follow you to go run. I'm not. I don't like running.
From what? Running from what?
I'll run to 7-Eleven for some ice cream, but that's I earn the ice cream at that point. It's allowed.
I can break out into a sprint for that. You're right. Something you said, it was right in that same realm. And I think it was just a wrap up that you did on the website that it said, do as I say, do as I do. It's not where, I'm not actually going to do it. You have to lead by example. If you have a passion, that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of this too, like I remember talking to my mom, like, what was I like when I was a kid? What did you tell me when I was a kid? Because you walk into a room with a bunch of high school students, right? And we're however old we happen to be. And to them, we're ancient.
Yes.
And we're just other adults. And it's like, yeah, but I sat in your seat. And here's what I thought when I was in your seat, and to really try to and be like, okay, I can't just tell you don't do this, but you see me doing it later. Like kids are smart. We did the same thing, and like, don't tell me not to do it if I see you doing it. That doesn't work.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Well,
So I only do Zumba, and I don't tell anybody else to do any other dancing.
I'm going to leave Zumba alone. My wife will not be happy even if I just say those words in my house. So she used to be an instructor for another type of workout. So, it's a dirty word. Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
I'm open
It's
to all day.
basically the same thing with a different name.
We're not telling her that.
No, I won't.
Is it Lumba?
Lumba.
No, that's riding on that while it's vacuuming. That's my exercise. It's sort of a plank. You plank on the Roomba, and yeah, it works very well.
That's you're getting a workout and playing Superman.
You are, and vacuuming.
And vacuuming. See, 3 birds with 1 stone, or 1
Yeah, how
Zumba.
the hell big would my Roomba
Rumba.
have to be to move my sorry butt around the house? It'd have to have it'd have to have tracks.
Well, that's where that Harley engine comes into play. That's where the sound is coming
I
from. That's
suppose.
not a Harley. That's my Roomba.
Now you're talking. You're a thinker, Nick.
I've been accused of worse.
It's that Webster University education.
It is that Webster University education. No, I blame the University of Southern California. It all comes back to LA in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyways, I think I wanted to wrap it up on something inspiring that Tyson said, but then we had to go and be funny about it. So let's just I guess what?
Funny is okay.
Funny's fine. I'm okay with funny. We're good with funny.
Well,
If people saw the video, they'd do nothing but laugh the whole time.
they're not ready for that yet.
They're not ready at all.
Tyson, you talked about your mom, So what kind of a kid was I? My mother said to me, I hope you have kids just like you.
That's a nice way of saying you're going to get it.
Yeah.
We have not spoken since. No, I'm just kidding. I talk to her every week. But happily, I got a kid that was way better than I was. So, and I'm done. I'm out. We had one good one. I'm out.
I'm going to finish on top.
That's
I'm not sure how it happened, but
oh, see, rails gone off rails.
just a little off the runway. in our Bonanza,
our Dr. Killer. Tyson, I don't know if you get that joke. Do you remember Murray's airplane? I know I took you to the airport once. He came down to visit with my mom. He had an airplane with a V-tail.
Okay.
And they're actually, a nickname for those are Dr. Killers, because doctors used to be the only ones that could afford to buy them, and they're high performance airplanes, but they didn't fly them enough to really be proficient. So a lot of them put it into the ground.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's my favorite airplane, of course.
Right. As a marketer, you'd probably not want that to follow a product.
Probably not. No.
Why don't we have sponsorships? That's why.
Yeah. I could think of a million other reasons as well, John. So,
and that in itself is one.
Exactly.
We don't deserve sponsorships.
But speaking of sponsorships, if you want to help out Patched Overalls, is there a way that our listeners can donate or subscribe or anything to help you out and help the scholarship out?
Yeah. So currently on our website, you guys mentioned patchedoveralls.com. We have a donate button. It's through PayPal. You don't have to have a PayPal account or anything. You can just donate through the website. Sometimes we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I don't tweet very much. Just recently, we added another member to our board of directors, and she's going to help take over some of this because honestly, I don't stick with it. But on Facebook and stuff, sometimes we also do donations through Facebook, and there's a button there. And we also have a address on the website, how to contact me, or how to also send donations if you want to mail them in. So we have a couple different things there. And then I like to tell people, follow us on these things, especially Instagram and Facebook, because I tell the students that if you have a question about something, I mean, we have people who follow us from all over the world now, people that I've met and different things. If you have a question, somebody out there might know how to answer it. So for other adults or people who might be wanting to help, like if you follow us, you could end up being a mentor to a student. You know, if somebody's like, hey, I'm really interested in doing forensic accounting, and somebody happens to be a forensic accountant, they're like, hey, I know how that works, and here's a programmer, here's my company. Like, you can potentially mentor a student who happens to just post something. It's very open at this point. Not a lot of students have posted it, but they get kind of nervous, and sometimes they go, I don't even know what I want to do or where I want to go. And it's like, that's what this is for. I call it our patchwork. Instead of our network, it's our patchwork.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So join the patchwork, and follow along and offer your own stories. I mean, anytime you're out of your comfort zone, you're going to learn something about yourself. So I've probably learned more about myself than I ever had about the things that I was at, and sort of how I navigate the world. And sometimes that's what students need to hear more too. Not just, here's the, the mortality rate of the people in this country. It's like, the first time I was in a room where I was the minority, what was that like?
Yeah.
That feel like? The first time I was at a place where I was the only one who spoke English, what did that feel like? The first time when I saw someone with polio, what was that like? So it's those sorts of experiences that you could share, and kids can go, oh, okay. Just to click that perspective button on maybe a little one way to the other. So just get involved. It's the best thing. Our big thing right now that we're hoping to do, we have on our board of directors, two of them are educators, Carrie being one of them, and then actually one of my old teachers. So we're hopefully going to start sitting down and creating curriculum based around our objectives and based around our values and what we hope students get out of it. And that curriculum, we hope, will be a way that we can say, here, other schools, here's our program. Would you be interested in taking over, and we can create, like you guys mentioned, that, little satellites around, and sort of grow the program as best we can, and give as many students as many opportunities as possible to just experience the world. And
that's incredible. That's awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck with that. And if you want to learn more about Patched Overalls, as Tyson said, you can go up to patchedoveralls.com, or you can head to the PoddiMouths.com website, and you'll see a link up there to Patched Overalls and to Tyson's organization. Wow, that just went right out of my brain. Always does. It's pretty typical. But again, you can find a link there to Patched Overalls and to everything that's going on there. What I would love to do, and I think our listeners would love it too sometime, Tyson, let's plan this in the near future, hopefully. I would love to have you back on the program and bring one of your recent but one of your recent students on after they've experienced and kind of see what it was like for them and get their opinion. I would love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every student, this is what thing I get so excited. I hope I don't go over your time limit here, but
we don't have a time limit. It's on. John always goes over our time limit.
Well, we get so excited. So like our very first group of students was 9 students initially applied. Of the 9, only 6 made it through to our finalist section. And that's really because, one person moved away, one decided they didn't want to do it. So we had 6 that went through, and of the 6, 1 was chosen. But the other 5, like, there's still quite a few of them. Like, if we post something on Patched Overalls, they like it. They share it. So it's not just the students who were chosen, because we tell all of our students, if you go through this process, even if you're not chosen, you walk away with a very real plan to accomplish something very real that you want. So everyone walks away with something, and we do everything we can to help any student who maybe wasn't chosen. If we can continue to help, we will. And there's been a handful of students who weren't chosen and still was like, I'm doing this anyway. And
that's awesome.
They did it anyway. Or they maybe are like, hey, I changed it, but now I did this. And it's like hearing those stories, and all those students, quite a few still will like stuff, will share stuff. So it's like this cool, like, even if you're not the recipient of the scholarship, you're not the chosen person, you're like, yeah, this was worth it, and we're gonna keep going and support as best we can. And that's been one of my personal favorite moments of this whole thing.
See, there you go, Tyson, inspiring more people. Stop. Just stop, okay?
I just show up and tell weird stories about snake wine and pooping polar bears.
Exactly. Although the snake wine thing is already up on Facebook, so because of the COVID.
So one thing, there you go. One thing, another thing I'd like to do, Tyson, I'm going to work with you after this program. It's going to be a couple weeks before this airs, so I want to get some designs and put up in our merch store a T-shirt, and then have all the proceeds from that T-shirt go to Patched Overalls.
Snake wine.
So
Snake wine T-shirt.
Snake wine T-shirt. Yep. So
Yeah,
we'll put a couple of
the
T-shirts up
Vietnamese
there.
state trooper. We could do the state trooper hat.
Yep. So go up, you can find the merch store on our website. Go up there, and there'll be our stuff, which that money is going to go to us. Hey, I'm not. But there's going to be stuff for Patched Overalls and Snake Wine up there, and all the proceeds to anything that you purchase up there will go directly to Patched Overalls.
We're doing that.
You said something that reminded me of two things. One, I think it's interesting. Our student currently going through it due to the COVID snake wine moment. Due to the COVID, her whole program had to go virtual. So she's actually in St. Genevieve during her program virtual. So I was actually able to go and see a student in the midst of her program there, and it was kind of this really interesting thing. And she's very very insightful and very reflective person. So I'm really looking forward to her testimonial. So as someone who might be willing to share a lot, and plus she would still be local. I think Aaron's going off to college. And then all the other students, one lives in Los Angeles and the other are in college. I think one's going to college in Montana or North Dakota or something. So
wow.
One was, two are anyway. So as far as somebody who could be really great about sharing, but all of them are like anything we can do. And then I had to design one for a shirt for Patched Overall. And so when we were starting this whole thing, I had never worked in education. I had never ran a nonprofit. I had no idea what I was doing. And so every step, I was like, oh my God, shit just got real. So I was like, why can't we make that our T-shirt? So it's like the poop emoji, and it just said, it got real. And then
Nice. Okay, that's going up there. That's going up there.
I was like, is that appropriate for school? Because they can't probably wear that to school. So
well, now with most schools being virtual, they just make sure the camera doesn't point at it. You'll be fine.
And by the way, I think my second year college roommate's name was Poop Emoji.
Did they even know what emojis were way back then, John?
Oh, of course not. No.
Well, Tyson, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to have you back on the program.
That was awesome.
Make sure when all this COVID shit's over with, you come and see us again, or we'll come and see you.
Yeah.
I know we've planned on it because of my trips to Cape Girardeau, but we haven't pulled the trigger yet. So that's life's busy, but we'll get there. We'll do it.
Yeah.
It's short too, so we got to do it quick. All right, guys. It's been real. It's been fun, but it hasn't been real fun. John?
It has too.
It really has, actually.
Yes, it has.
I'm having a blast.
All right,
everybody. You have a great week.
Listeners, thanks, and see ya.